Okay, back on the 964, and we are looking today at the climate control unit. Specifically, the buttons on the right-hand side here have, well, one's fallen out and somehow gotten lost. They still work, but you can see like the faces are coming off there. The other one completely off. So I have a new switch to go in there. And there is your part number. This came from Porsche parts in Delaware Porsche parts. And you can see the total for the switch. Yeah, that's not even pretty. I figured I'd find somewhere online that would have 3D printed these buttons, but I could not find any place. So I ended up having to get the original Porsche unit, and it's just literally, it's a part that's shared with the 944 and a bunch of other models, so you wouldn't think it'd be rocket science, but Porsche is exceptionally proud of their stuff, and the Porsche tax is a real thing. So it's our idiot minds for paying these prices. But yeah, there's no alternative that I could find. So if you know of one, certainly put it in the comments. You can see here, I've got the radio removal tools, and I'm going to simply use a little pick to help motivate this out. So here we go. Okay, so I want to update you here. I'm using these straight removal tools here, and I can put a link in the description for these if you want to find these. But I will tell you, it takes a fair amount of persistent finagling here. It just did not want to release, and then I finally got this side to go, and that helped, and then finally managed to get this one to release. So it presumably has been in there since the car was new, and this is a 91, so do the math depending on what you're watching this. Filming this in August of 2024, and it was definitely a little tricky to get this one released. So now I've got both sides loose. It looks like I can get this out with some gentle help of this, and I'm also going to basically put down some, like a towel here, because you don't want to risk scratching your dash when you remove this climate control head. So next step will be to get this out so that I can gain access to the switch. So in the process of pulling this out, I became aware of the next challenge, clearing your stalks here. If you put your wipers up and then push the cruise control unit down, you'll be able to sneak it out just far enough to get it past this, but just be prepared for that as well. Next, we get to remove the harness plug, and it's simply just a little tab right here that you push. So push that tab right there, and I use my little pick tool right in this corner to just help hinge it up and get it started, and then it easily unplugs. And on the other one, it's just reverse. The hook, button is on this side. Put your little pick tool under here and gently pry that up until it starts coming loose. One thing to note, when you're removing these, you'll see this little ear here. This actually hooks in on this end, so you're gonna have to kind of pivot that enough to release that so it won't just come out, but be aware of that when you remove it and put it back in, obviously. Okay, I've got it out on the workbench here, and there's 3 little plastic tabs here, so you're gonna very gently, and I've already got these popped, but they look like this. They have these 4 little ridges on it, so you'll see 4 little ridges here, here, and here. Push them down. So I use 2 here on one hand, and I hold them down, and then I use the little pick tool here on the other one, and then just gently push them forward, and you're gonna have to do this on both sides. So I kind of got them started. I used a little flat blade and stuck it in there just to hold it. Flip it over and get your other side. So you got that, and then you can start pushing the face away from here, as you can see. So I'm gonna go ahead and carefully do that. Okay, you can see I've got this mostly apart. You can see there is a ribbon cable down in here that attaches to the face. So just be careful that when you're pulling this out, you just don't apply too much force and yank this thing, because you don't want it to obviously damage that cable or connectors on either side. Also worth noting is if you have any lights out, this is a good time to change your bulbs. They're right there and there. See the blue backs on those. These are actually working just fine, so I'm going to leave them alone, but this is the switch that we're going to go after, and we're going to get this out of here to replace it. Okay, so I carefully removed that ribbon cable. No problem there. Now we need to get this circuit board segment away from the face of this. So that means you have to take off your buttons here, and you also have to take these off, and these are very tight on this one, so I'm struggling at the moment to get these off, and I'm going to kind of think through my options here a little bit, because I don't want to damage the face of this. I'll probably put some tape down and just maybe gently try to pry on both sides, get that to loosen up a little bit. But the trick here to getting the circuit board, and I looked at this for just a moment before it occurred to me, but these little risers here are your secret. So you'll see there's these little tabs right down in here. So those tabs go through the sides of here. You can see I've got them released already on this one. If I can get that to focus. So tab, tab, tab. So assuming you can get all your buttons off here, then you should be able to just simply pull this section out, obviously being careful. Last thing we want to do is actually break this and crack this, so I don't want to put too much pressure here. I want to just do this all nice and easy and evenly so that nothing gets hurt. And this also, I gotta look at this to see how that's going to come apart, but I'm going to do a little investigating here and we'll cut right back in and give you some answers, hopefully. So here's an area where I love German engineering. You can see there's two tiny little wires here that go to the sensor in this, and there's actually a little slide. It'll slide up out of this post. You can see I've got it pulled up already, and it pushes down, but I can kind of move that in and out, and that way I don't have to worry about that part of it. Is actually quite easy. So I'm just back to getting those dial indicators off and going from there. I should note that the bean counters were definitely in control by this point, because you want to wait until you're lifting this board off before you fully remove this. There's not really enough slack here for me to feel comfortable in pulling that out just yet, but I've got it loose so that it won't snag or anything. It'll come up with the board when it's removed. But yeah, don't pull it out all the way until you're ready to take the entire board out, i.e. you've got your buttons off and dials off. There's just two little black clips here. So loosen up the side clips I mentioned before that you can see with these arches. And then there's two little clips that hold the board in right here. So once you pop these and pull, then the whole unit is going to slide in through the face. Very, very easy. I knew there had to be something I was missing, and that was it. So yeah, this is actually far simpler than, that's good. I like that. Okay, so just take your time and be mindful that those little clips, they normally live here, but on the way out, they're gonna catch here too. So don't get in a hurry, just gently pry these apart, work them out slowly. And remember, this is 30-plus-year-old plastic. And then once you get this out, you can see we got the unit out. And now it's quite easy just to remove this switch portion on the end. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right now. One step forward, two steps back. Okay, so what seemed like we were home free, nah, we're not. And it might still come down to these. I cannot remove the wafer from the front because these are actually soldered in. So going to the rheostat for the dials there, those are basically mounted quite firmly to the board. So that's my new predicament, is I'm trying to figure out, there's not really a way to flex this because, like I said, this is old plastic, and you can see it's already flexed a bit from me just trying to get it out of the car. So now I need to figure out how to get that switch out of here, out of that surround without breaking it, and obviously I can't remove that. Like, I don't want to unsolder that, although maybe it has to be that way. So I'm going to carefully set this down. Also be aware, once you remove this, that little sensor is just kind of floating around here. So you do not want to catch that on anything and rip it off. Just be mindful of that. I'm holding it here in the middle at the moment, but I tend to hold it near the rheostat or the dials simply because it's a little firmer right there. And I have just a better feeling that I'm not going to break this. So obviously be very careful. Because I don't know if you've priced one of these units lately, but the Porsche tax is exceptionally real on the entire unit versus that switch, which is $250. Okay, we're back. Ended up sleeping on this one overnight and came back the next morning and remembered that I had some of these pry tools, which are perfect for this scenario. So if you very gently slide this in under your knob here and support it there while you pull on it with your other hand here very gently. You may have to work your way around just a little bit, but just take your time, be patient, and you will get these to come off. Once you do that, I think we're home free. So I'm going to remove these knobs now, and then I should be able to get at this switch. I'm also going to do a little artistic touch-up on this one because you can see the snowflake has kind of worn off there. So maybe some very careful application with a flat marker. If I have one that matches, I can sort of recreate that a little bit. Okay, got this apart. Once you get the knobs off, there are two little 10mm nuts here and washers that you carefully remove. And we are down to the base unit. Now, you'll notice this is a little dirty here, so this is a really good time to do a little cleanup. Maybe hit this with a little bit of contact cleaner, which I've got. But I'm going to clean up these slides while it's out too. There's some fuzz there you can see. So we will get that cleaned up, and then obviously we're going to go after this switch here. So reassembly is actually pretty straightforward, as you might imagine. Got the new switch in that just pushes in carefully, and then put your knobs back on. Do not forget to put your 10mm nuts and washers on first, then put your knobs on. And then when you're reassembling, remember this little piece here, slide it in for the air pickup tube here before you get everything seated, just so you've got enough slack in that wire. And then we're going to continue pushing this back down into the face and getting our clips back in place here. Oh, and one other thing to be sure of is when you're putting this little piece back in here, make sure that it is seated on top of that circuit board there. If you can see that, if I can get it to focus. Yeah. So this little plastic piece here, that needs to be on top of the circuit board, not under it. Because if it's under, it won't fit, and you may damage these wires. Okay, so one other quick tidbit worth mentioning. Upon reassembly, when you put this into place, make sure that it's getting into those tabs. You can see all three tabs there. Make sure your circuit board or these little clear arms are clicking into those correctly. When I initially did this, they looked like they were there, but they weren't all the way home. And so I actually just gently used this little pick to push the little tab into the notch there. And it made a satisfying click when I did that. You could, of course, use your little plastic pick tool as well if it fits. But just make sure all 6 of those are nicely seated. And then we're ready to just plug in our ribbon cable, and it goes back into our assembly and back into the car. And you can see our car is now fully back together. No problem. New buttons, both with... Actually, having both buttons is nice. Previously, we had lost the defrost button somewhere. Literally just cleaning the dash, and it popped off and escaped, and I could never find the thing. So I don't know where it went. But the other button on top would also fall off, so it was time to replace that. But now we have the new radio, which looks nice in OEM. Once again, no more swimming dolphins or other ridiculousness. new speakers behind all the factory grills, and this one is pretty much good to go. Working R134 AC, all done, all good, and yeah, back to Audis. Thanks for watching.